1. I had a corporate restaurant job for almost 7 years and worked front of house and back of house. When I finally quit, I did part-time cooking and part-time shift supervising. I worked with so many people throughout my time there, good and bad, amazing and nightmarish. Although for our literal nightmare employees, it took so long to fire them. Like for instance, we had a cook I worked with for a long time. A decent guy. We worked well enough together, but he'd come in for a closing shift and immediately start closing. Then he'd get mad when we'd get busy for dinner. He'd slam things, yell, go outside for 10-minute smoke breaks every hour or so. He almost never wore gloves, my state requires it. Even in a closed kitchen, I'm pretty sure. And it seemed like his clothes were always dirty, like he never washed them. He actually threatened an 18-year-old once, he was in his mid to late 40s, for following manager's orders. We did eventually fire him because he threw food he messed up 3 times at the acting shift at the time. But the build-up for his behavior was almost 3 years. There's actually a guy who acts similarly to this, who's still there. He just hasn't threatened anyone or thrown anything at anyone directly. We also had this guy for almost a year who was sexist, racist, homophobic, etc. One of my friends, who was also SS, worked with him once and very gently corrected and informed him of a procedure he wasn't aware of, and he threw a spatula violently at the wall and walked off during dinner, complaining to me that she bossed him around and acted like hot crap. To be honest, my friend is hot crap. She got sent by the company to open a whole new store. She knew so much more than me. She knew everything. Over the next several months, his behavior escalated to insulting multiple women, calling them fat. This included me, but he wasn't aware I'm non-binary. Not many people were. Making unprompted sexual remarks. He even talked so explicitly about his own girlfriend. Eventually, my ex-friend, manager, a man, sat him down and told him to cut it. The women were uncomfortable. His response,
"I guess I shouldn't talk anymore then."
When I quit, he was still there, but his behavior escalated so far as to stalking another one of my managers, a woman. He would text her constantly, sexually harassed her, saved her pictures from Facebook, and showed others. So much so she had to block him. That was his manager. When it got to that point, the manager finally fires him. Meanwhile, I've had a new front-of-house job for several months now, and at least 4 front-of-house people have been fired. One of the servers said they'd see the manager next Tuesday, and she got fired that day. If that happened at my last job, we wouldn't even get written up. But our manager there would have sat me down and asked me if I was okay if I did that to him. A few others have just been taken off the schedule for being incredibly mediocre at their jobs and not doing side work or messing with the flow of service somehow. A recent one, someone got fired today because she was taking time off, called out for 4 of her shifts in the last 2 weeks, and was dramatic on shift because she worked with her ex-boyfriend and caused tension. It's just wild to me the complete difference between the jobs and management there is. I mean, my new job is a family-owned business versus the first one was a corporate job. And I live in an at-will state. Just the way the 2 jobs treat firing is so different. So I was wondering if anyone else has job hopped and noticed a 180 in how work ethic is. 2. Hello all, looking for advice. I'm female, 22, and I've been a server at the current bar, not a bartender, I'm at, for almost 4 years. I am also in college full-time. I work 4 or 5 nights a week, with some doubles in between. I'm finding it really difficult to balance my life out with this job. Quitting is not an option right now, because while the job is hard with long hours, I make pretty good money, and I am financially supporting myself fully on my own, rent, car, etc. I think I've just gotten to a point where I'm so depressed when I'm there. I work weekends every week, and I have 2 semesters of school left, and I feel like I haven't really gotten to enjoy college or fully immerse myself in my major as much as I hoped to. Every week, excluding summers off, I have classes, coursework. I'm a philosophy major, so it can be a lot of long hours reading and writing. Then I go to work at the bar. Yesterday I was there from 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. and I'm so burnt out. Every summer, about a month before school starts, I start to get really anxious because I know that I get overwhelmed a lot, especially because with this schedule it's hard to keep up with friends, family, and my own basic needs like health, and even eating right, and taking care of myself. Which I know that the emotional side of the burnout adds to this. I think I'm just so anxious all the time because I can't fulfill my own passions and interests, but I also feel like I have no choice. Which I know, that's life. I just wanted to come on here and ask some servers who have similar experience as me how they keep up with the overwhelming environment and the burnout. I'm on good terms with all of my coworkers, and some of them have become my closest friends. But sometimes I think the environment gets really toxic for my mental health, and I catch myself acting in ways that are not really who I am, if that makes sense. 2 weeks ago, I decided to start putting away as much money as possible in order to create a large savings by the end of the year to possibly create wiggle room for me to quit and start looking for another job. Because I know that a bunch of people will tell me to move on from this one, which, yes, I know, I think it's time to. But financially, it's not in the cards for me at the moment. In 6 months, if I save enough, then I will take that action. I think I just need advice for this waiting period of me saving and preparing to leave. It's hard because I'm comfortable there and it feels like a family to me, but I know it's not fitting my needs anymore and I gotta move on. Also, like I'm too comfortable. I also get hit on a lot and get very creepy comments from men, which usually I can handle, but has come to the point where it has taken a toll on my mental health hugely. But hey, that's how it is. I know. If anyone has any advice on how I can take care of myself in these next few months while I prepare to quit and find another serving job, or maybe even something else, that would be great. I'm in therapy, and I am on medication as well, but it seems like I'm just kind of stuck. School is really important to me, and I always end up doing well. I just don't want to get overwhelmed again like I always do. If you're listening to this, thank you. Please comment advice. Even if you don't, it felt good to get this out. Health resource note, you're definitely doing the right thing by building a safety net before you quit. Also, probably not a bad idea to be already looking for jobs. You have experience, so that'll help you get another one, quite frankly. Perhaps if you're on good terms with the place you're currently working, you could let them know that maybe you need reduced hours, or look for a job that has less hours that will give you a little bit more time while still helping pay your bills. Either way, I hope you get what you need soon. And, well, it is only temporary, because I'm assuming your degree is something you'll want to put into practice one day in pursuit of a career. 3. I love my job. I've been a waitress at the same little breakfast and lunch spot for about 15 years. I recently stopped serving and chose to host and manage front of house. We are a small local hotspot and I have a lot of regulars. Today, one of those regulars, an older woman, mid-70s, early 80s, asked me when the baby was due. I'm not pregnant. I've never been pregnant. I've been waiting on this woman for years, and in that time I've gone up and down and back up again 50 pounds. This is not the first time she has assumed that I am pregnant. I've always been the bigger person and chose self-deprecation, so I don't make this woman uncomfortable. Not today. Today I looked her straight in the eye and told her you should never assume things about other people's bodies. Then I walked away and vented to the restaurant owner while we broke down boxes. As soon as I returned to the floor, this lady comes up to me and apologizes. I curtly accepted her apology and went back to pretending like I wasn't offended. Fast forward to the end of the day, 15 minutes before we close. The owner was just saying we should flip the signs to close and let the kitchen start cleaning up for the day. This woman walks in, loudly announces she knows we're closing, so she'll be quick, and sits down. She is just an unpleasant woman all around. I really try to be empathetic to people I don't know and not take their weird attitudes personally, but this woman really got under my skin. I saved our sweet and amazing 20-year-old waitress from her and just took this lady's order. By the time her food comes out, we are closed and starting to break down the restaurant. She is one of 3 tables, one of 2 inside, and then there is a table of regulars sitting outside. This weird lady is staring at her phone and not touching her food. She abruptly gets up and calls out that her dog set off an alarm and she'll be right back. Like, what alarm? Hopefully her car alarm, but like, is she walking home? It was just a car alarm, and she was back shortly after. She continues to not touch her food and stare at her phone while we clean around her. She then abruptly leaves again, this time returning with the small dog. I watch as this little dog with no leash manners drags her across the street. I go to greet her at the door, and she, with the tone of a woman who gets away with abusing the system often, announces that this untrained dog is her hearing aid because she is hearing impaired. I politely tell her that we are closed at this point, and she and her dog could sit outside and finish her meal, or I could wrap it up to go. This is when she went off on me, yelling that she's going to slap me with an ADA lawsuit. This is where I should have disengaged and just asked her to leave. This is where I screwed up. You see, I am passionate about real service dog work. I used to volunteer at a training facility for these highly trained pieces of adorable medical equipment. Fake service dogs are making an already difficult life harder for people with real service dogs. These untrained ESAs, companion animals, interfere with and distract working dogs, even going so far as to attack them. I told this woman that I did not believe her dog was a service dog, and it was my right to refuse service to her and her dog, because the business is past closing hours at this point. She then started making a big scene and began filming me. I was still being a hothead and gladly spelled my first and last name for her video, and told her that I looked forward to seeing her in court. She left after that, and I will be absolutely shocked if I face any legal repercussions. Today has really stuck under my skin. It's difficult to have strong opinions and values and work with the general public. It's not worth getting on a soapbox and trying to educate people. I will continue to deny entry to people who can't name a single task their service dog is trained to do. But I will try harder to no longer engage outside of politely asking them to sit outside or directing them to another restaurant. Thanks for listening. Luckily, it's my last shift before a much-needed mini-vacation before my 40th birthday. So old. I'd love for anyone to share their horror stories so I can have some in-flight entertainment. 4. This lady came in at the last 18 minutes of today's service and ordered a salad with a skirt steak cooked to medium well and a water. Our manager told her we were about to close and she said she'd eat it up quick. Before the food came out, she was saying she wanted to sample our soup. As she had never tried it before, I gave her 2 samples of our soup of the day and her tomato cup because she couldn't eat clam chowder due to a shellfish allergy, and she decides to pass on soup. Her food finally arrives 2 minutes before closing. She eats and then later comes to our workstation to say the steak is not medium well and that her salad doesn't have avocado. The MIC rung her up, and not only did the ticket not have avocado, but she didn't even tell that to the manager. The salad she got didn't get avocado either, so it would have been an extra charge. She asks me for my name randomly, and then said she appreciates me. Already knew she was looking for a problem because I wear a name tag. Everyone in the back of house is flabbergasted, including myself, because that skirt steak was absolutely medium well. She said it was red and bleeding, and it wasn't. We remake it, and I suggested to her that getting it well done might be a better option as to avoid it being too pink for her liking, and also that the kitchen is closed, so they won't be able to remake it a second time. She agrees and then asks if she can get a soup. By this point I had already put the soup wells in the dishwasher and assumed he had already washed them. So I inform her that the soup had been put up and that our point of sale is now turned off. So I couldn't charge her for it either. She says okay to that and asks my coworker who literally denied folks during work hours decaf coffee, gives her a free soup by running over right before our dishwasher kills it. I don't know what he was thinking. Afterwards, I'm in the process of cleaning, and she calls me over one more time to ask for a Sprite, and she's on the phone. And I tell her no again because once again the point-of-sale system is down, and I had already deconstructed my soda fountain. What she had done was put it on loudspeaker and was on the phone with customer service. And thankfully, my MIC hadn't quite left, and I got her for my own protection. The lady talks down to me, saying, "You're so young, you need to know you're rude. You're younger than my son, in fact." And that I've been coming here for years and have never seen you. And that I should have given her free soup as compensation. She's somehow never tried our soup specifically, the tomato soup, which has been on the menu as early as the 90s. And I work the most hours out of the whole staff. She's not a regular. Even our most senior server, my coworker, didn't recognize her. She said she was entertaining me, which is my largest point of contention. You came in knowing you would be eating your food after service and kitchen hours. No one kicked you out. We've remade your food. You've gotten free additional supplements, nickel and diming us. Still expect more. And somehow I'm the one being entertained? MIC backed me up and told me to take it easy and went her way. She proceeds to eat for an additional 45 minutes after closing. She thinks she's punishing me, but I'm going to be there. She only spread out her spite to the dishwasher, who now has to wait for her to finish her food to ensure all the dishes are clean. Finally, she asks for her receipt. I give it to her, and she says, "Thank you." I didn't even bother saying "you're welcome," because it was just her trying to demonstrate poise. You're not confident and mature. You're full of it, lady. 5. I'm 55 years old, and I have been in the hospitality industry for decades. I've worked hard enough that nearly 30 years of experience fits on a one-page resume. I found myself working in the French Quarter of magical New Orleans 8 years ago as a server, promoted to manager not long thereafter. Time flies when you're in high-volume food service, even if you don't drink. I was sober when I started there. Before you know it, we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and I'm laid off for 7 months to the day. The first night I was called back to work, at the end of my shift, I was informed by the manager on duty that the illegal practice of tipping out the kitchen had been adopted. He was the only one responsible for sales until I was called back, having taken my shift since curfew had made his shift a COVID violation. I didn't know it was illegal. Now that I think about it, whether he even tipped the kitchen could easily be up for debate. He was always pretty abusive to me, and would light into me for things not even close to being my responsibility. I once got yelled and screamed at because the ice machine was pouring water all over the floor, and I turned it off thinking it was a safety hazard. It was more important to him that ice production not stop, and used it as another excuse to browbeat me in front of everyone, and try to make me look stupid. No one would stand up to him. It's like we were all living in Jonestown, and under Jim's influence. Eventually, a coworker pointed out to me that I was displaying signs of severe anxiety and PTSD, usually about an hour before his arrival. It would be nothing for me to get 25 to 30 text messages during my shift while I'm trying to bartend and wait tables and front-of-house manage. It was a non-stop barrage that I had been beaten down with and grown accustomed to. I didn't charge the waitresses tip share upon operations returning to normal in exchange for making their drinks. Without my knowledge, when waitresses went to the office to do their checkouts, he would. I didn't know and never saw any of that money. Eventually, a gutsy waitress got tired of watching me being stolen from and abused and stepped up and said something. Nothing changed, except for the language used for collection of tips for the kitchen, of which, up until then, only a fraction were they even given. I felt completely demoralized, defeated, like I was living a dream. Once the amounts being distributed to the kitchen started being logged, my drawer started coming up short consistently. Never counting my drawer at the beginning of my shift was the excuse used. Why would I? He counted it the night before. One night it was counted 3 times in front of 2 witnesses, still short the next day. One day, seriously short when I'd had 4 cash transactions the entire shift. Seems like the entire affair had become a sadistic sport. I found out that tipping out the kitchen was illegal about the same time I found out their tip share was being collected on my behalf that I wasn't seeing. By then I'd become a shell of my former self, having endured 8 years of abuse, started drinking and managed to stop somehow. It was about the 3rd week of May. It was sprung on some of us that the place would be shutting down. It was like a nightmare. The drawer being short and me being held accountable for things that weren't my responsibility had escalated, and I didn't show up to my final 2 shifts with the approval of the new GM in training, who had been made aware of everything that had transpired. Within a week of us closing down, I hurt my foot really bad and was not able to put on a shoe for about 5 weeks. Some would tell me I had been cursed or was paying for the mistakes of an ancestor. By the time my foot got better, I really found it hard to leave my apartment. By my estimate, he took me for tens of thousands. Yesterday came the eviction notice. I've lost 30 pounds, immune system down, living undetectable with HIV. And today I got an attorney. I'm due in eviction court Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. I want to fight for what was taken from me, save my apartment for now, and start working again and take my life back. It would take $4,000 to pay my landlord what I owe him, even if he would accept it. Considering the extenuating circumstances, I think he would. This isn't just about me, but the waitress who stood up for me. She paid the kitchen also. It's about anyone else that gets beat up and needs a hand and no one shows up for so long. It's estimated that $5.8 billion in tips is stolen annually. There are others like me afraid to come forward. This is for them and the countless others out there afraid to stand up for themselves. This entire experience has been surreal. And while it all had a pinch me, I must be dreaming quality in regards to how fantastic the behavior was. There should be nothing left to the imagination when it comes to the consequences of such inhuman behavior. I'll see you in court. Since originally writing this, I have discovered in the study of 83 check stubs, they have over 25,000 in accumulated unpaid overtime. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates, episode 257. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories. Before you go, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Okay, no other bits of business today, so let's have Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is: privacy. At your home, if you're in a place where you would have trees and things, do you prefer to have your front windows clear so you can peer out and see what's going on at all times? Or are you like me and you kind of like trees in front of the windows so you can still let the light in, but you don't really need a good view of what the neighbors are doing, and quite frankly, they don't need to see into your house either? Let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, let's take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And I think this was about your favorite kind of pizzas. And today's answer comes from Spinning Plates 256 and is from Left to Stray. Okay, I'd like a large with ham, sausage, pepperoni, mushrooms, onions, green peppers, and extra cheese. I love my pizza being cheesy. Hear, hear. Thank you very much for your answer, Left to Stray. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. I've got people coming to put scaffolding up today, and I don't know when they're going to be here, so I'm trying to get most of my audio recorded and out of the way. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.